control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me. It's Friday night. You made it. You're here. It's now the weekend. And well done, everybody. all of those of you who made it, welcome and well done. Hope you guys are doing great. Hopefully I've got a great show lined up for you guys. I know I slaved away on it for quite a while, but hopefully it'll be well worth the investment. No, I always prep for you guys. I'm always excited to do the shows. Hey, Warchild, good to see you. KBS sent you. Algorithm, good to see you, brother. I just saw you over there. Yeah, it was awesome. Kev Baker's here as well. You know, there's some people you meet in doing what you do that really are a guide, and they really are a barometer and a I don't know, like a pathfinder for you. You know, we try to emulate those people that do what we love because we want to do it well, because they do it well. And Kev Baker is one of those people for me. I've I've been following them for a long time, ever since starting doing the Paranormal Portal. Kev's already been at this for a long, long time. And it's always been a pleasure and an honor to know Kev and to, you know, be the show that's featured right after him on our TFR schedule. And I just want to say, you know, you've been an inspiration, brother. You've been a mentor. You've been an example of what I try to emulate here on the portal. So thank you for all of those things. And thanks for being a friend. And thanks for making me always feel so damn special when I stop in your YouTube channel. It's like, wow, the fanfare comes out. It's just really amazing. So special hello and thank you to Kev Baker and the Freaky Friday show. Scotty Lopez is on there, as well as our very own Naysay, who's been a friend of the show forever since I started doing this. So just right up front. But, well, yeah, exactly. You're very humbled. I just left yours where you had a special graphic pulled out for me, man. That was hardcore. I was glowing when I left there. So thank you. So tonight, folks, just so you know, you can call in and be a part of the portal. If you want to share some kind of paranormal experience of your very own, you can do so. The call-in number for tonight's show, for every not just tonight, every night. The call-in number for our show is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And for those of you on TFR, that's a different number than most of the other shows, but it's because I do other shows off of the TFR schedule, so I got my own call-in line. And for those of you on YouTube, if you forget that number, it's just right above my head under the words Paranormal Portal on your screen. So, and yes, I did say YouTube. For those of you on TFR, iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live. If you want to see the show as it's happening, as I'm doing it, see the magic that makes up the portal, then you can do so by heading over to youtube.com/paranormal portal. And if you want to just hang back and chat, definitely any of you out there that already aren't in a chat room, head over to tfrlive.com/chat create a username and a password and get involved. A great community of people over there. The chat's always been a big part of what the portal does, and they've really been, all of you chatters out there have always been like the second co-host. You've always been a part of the show since we've started doing it. I sometimes don't do as good a job seeing the chat, but it's kind of hard when you're reading and operating all the levers and switches that make up the Paranormal Portal. But I do my best. So the number is there if you want to call in. If you have something paranormal, you're kind of shy, don't want to call in, that freaks you out, you can always email it to me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And that's another way to get your story heard. And if you got a bunch of stories, don't forget our podcast. And if you want to be a part of the podcast, like you have enough stories, you want to come on and be a guest on my show, by all means, it's called the Paranormal Portal as well. And you can find that on all the major platforms, but the same email address, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So those are your options. Those are the methods to get in touch with us here. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet the Paranormal Portal crew. Yeah, Algorithm. Yeah, he's a mod over there on Kevin Baker's show. So that's awesome. Good to see you guys. All right. So how do you guys do? How do you do? I'm going to be your host, your guide, and your seeing eye dog through the Paranormal Portal. And where do we always start? How about some news? All right, folks, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk, which is exactly like the other desk, but some different graphics for those of you on YouTube you get to see. I got some news articles pulled up for you guys that I think should be kind of interesting. I think I'm going to save that one to last. There's one that I pulled up that's just kind of, it's like, wow, seriously? Here's one, and this is, I don't know if this is necessarily paranormal, but it definitely isn't normal. So therefore, isn't it paranormal? If something is not normal, doesn't it automatically become paranormal then? I think maybe it does. So the first article we're going to cover tonight is from unexplained-mysteries.com. The lottery probed after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are drawn. So they drew 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How much do you want to bet there was some clown that actually played those numbers? I don't know. But anyway, let's see. South Africa's national lottery has come under scrutiny after a perfect progression of numbers was drawn. When it comes to buying a lottery ticket, most people will tend to avoid putting down 6 consecutive numbers. However, in a bizarre twist, that's exactly what was drawn in South Africa's Powerball lottery on Tuesday. A perfect run of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Incredible. Here you go. Incredibly, 20 people managed to win a share of the jackpot that amounted to $370,000 each. Yep. There's some believers right there, I'll tell you that. Well, technically, the odds of these numbers coming up are the same as they are for any other random selection of numbers. Many people have expressed suspicion over the fact that 6 consecutive numbers had been drawn, while others have called the whole thing a scam. Officials have argued that the reason there were more winners than usual this time was because the sequence of numbers that was drawn happens to be a popular choice for ticket holders. South Africa's National Lotteries Commission, NLC, is now investigating the draw. So congratulations to 20 new multimillionaires. Well, I don't think 370 grand is a qualifier. But anyway, who each won over $5 million on the Powerball jackpot. Well, maybe that's their cash versus ours. Okay, so that's currency exchange. Gotcha. On the Powerball jackpot, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. What will your winning numbers be? Check your tickets now to see if you're a winner. So they're actually looking into it. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's like eventually, if you do enough laundry, you're going to pull out a perfectly folded towel. It's going to happen. It's just a law, when. If you roll dice, you can get, you roll 5 dice. Eventually, you're going to get, 5 ones or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just going to happen. So if it is truly by chance, it doesn't surprise me that it actually came up. I don't know if they were actually drawn in that exact order as well, or if that just those numbers were drawn that equaled 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, if they came up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that would be kind of freaky. But anyway, strangeness abounds, folks, but that's what we excel at here on the portal. We love our strangeness. So that's our first story tonight. Here's the next story. I don't know, sometimes people just do the dumbest things. I mean, like there's like, and forgive me, I don't mean to sound like a dick here, but there's stupid, and then there's all kinds of stupid. And this I'm going to chalk up to the all kinds of stupid. And, I don't know what would motivate someone to do this, but here you go, folks. I don't write this stuff. This truth is stranger than fiction, but here it is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Rapper has diamond implanted in his head. So I don't know what that means. How do you implant that in your head? I don't know. Looks like it's on the surface, but anyway, it says rapper Lil Uzi Vert went viral recently after posting images of himself with a rather expensive accessory. In a bizarre move, the 26-year-old has seemingly had a pink diamond worth a staggering $24 million surgically embedded right in the middle of his forehead. Oof. The media got wind of the stunt earlier this month after claims that he was going to undergo the procedure drew skepticism and intrigue. It says incredibly, photographs later emerged showing that he had genuinely gone through with it. Suffice it to say, the gemstone has cost him a pretty penny. I've been paying for a natural pink diamond from Elliot for years now, said Vert. This one stone costs so much that I've been paying for it since 2017. And that was the first time I saw a real natural pink diamond. It says when one of the fans asked him why he didn't have to put it into a ring, he said, instead he replied, "If I lose the ring, yeah, you'll make fun of me more than putting it in my forehead. Ha ha, joke's on you. Ha 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 ha. And yes, I do have insurance." Good. That's good. Because your head is now worth $24 million. So that's probably a good thing to insure. Y'all keep talking about it because it's off the long bar in it. So what? Y'all keep talking about it's off because of the long bar in it so it can move because of the swelling. Yeah, jeez. Whether he actually decides to keep the diamond in his head long term, however, remains to be seen. Here's the thing, I don't know. There's always a risk. Anytime you undergo any kind of surgery whatsoever, there's always risk of infection, and infection can be fatal. So I realize this guy wants to front off his money and let everybody know just how much he has or whatever. But that's just a whole kind of stupid that I'm not familiar with. Now, it's his money. It's his life. He can do whatever he wants. I give him full credit for that. Good for you. You're expressing yourself in your own way and all of that. But, I mean, if he had developed a nasty infection or does develop a nasty infection due to this thing being mounted inside of his head or on his head, I mean, is it really worth that? Is it really, how much value is your corpse going to have? Well, about $24,030,000. I don't know what a body is worth, but chemically, I think we're worth like 30 cents or a buck 50 or something like that. I don't know. It's just weird. And Godspeed to him. I hope he doesn't get an infection or anything like that, and I hope he loves this choice for the rest of his life. I don't know. Again, I don't write this stuff, folks. I don't write it. Let's go on to the next one. The next story is, where the hell did my mouse go? There it is. All right, and this one is, and this we're going to be talking more about Bigfoot later in the show. It's there's some neat things that I ran across that I'm really excited to bring to you in regards to the Bigfoot, and one of them is some Native American references to historically and legendarily to the Bigfoot phenomena. And I say phenomena. I believe they're out there. I'm not saying it's just this idea that they're out there. I believe they are. But it's Native American stories and traditions revolving around the Bigfoot, which I thought was incredibly beautiful and incredibly poignant and just really, really wonderful. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you later on in the show. But this one is, and I don't think I stopped after I opened this because I thought maybe we've talked about this before on the news, but we're going to talk about it again anyway. I don't think this one exactly, but I'm hoping I'm not being redundant. But I swear to God, doing all these shows and all this information, sometimes I forget what I've talked about. So please bear with me if you've heard this before. But this is from, again, unexplained-mysteries.com. Witness reports Bigfoot sighting in California. It says Rick Bates has been driving along Highway 101 near Garberville when he noticed something very unusual. The encounter, which took place on January 23rd, occurred between Benbow Inn and Richardson Grove and was later submitted to the BFRO, Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. The road makes a few turns and the speed limit drops in the area, Bates wrote, and as I rounded a sweeping right-hand turn, I saw a figure on the southbound shoulder of the highway. I was the only vehicle in the area about 8:15 p.m. My speed was about 45 to 50 miles per hour as I passed the figure. The figure was laying on the shoulder of the road on its right side. I estimated the height to be about 7 feet. And I was looking at the creature's back and noticed it had broad shoulders and thick and was thick torso shaped. While the shape similar to a human, it was not human. I could see muscular features in its glutes and at the head of its shoulders that was somewhat tapered towards the top and being held to the ground. I don't know what that means. Its hair was a chocolate brown and very coarse. The hair was not not like fur of a bear at all. I turned around a distance past the spot and returned to where I had seen it. No other vehicles had gone north or south from the time I saw the creature to the time I returned to its location, which is about 2 minutes estimated. And when I got to the spot where I had seen it, the creature was gone. A follow-up call to the witness revealed that he was a veteran law enforcement officer who had driven the route numerous times. He remained adamant that the creature was shaped like a man but covered in thick hair. As things stand, no conclusive explanation for the sighting has been found. Wow, that's pretty intense. I really think that the first really good quality filming of a Bigfoot is going to come from a vehicle, and it's going to be because of dash cams. And I read that somewhere, and it really makes sense to me as these dash cams become more prevalent in cars. Somebody's going to catch one. Somebody's going to catch a real good daylight sighting, and it's going to, be like the new Patterson-Gimlin film, I think. It's just going to be incredible. So I'm anxiously waiting for that to happen. I think that'll be great, but because it'll finally put it to rest. Hold on. Okay, one more news article, I think. I just got one more here. Let me just check the time. Yeah, this will be about perfect. So here's this is the last news article. And this one I thought was funny because I guess we'll get to that on the other side. But let me read the article first. Excuse me. My God. All right. So this is also from unexplained-mysteries.com. And it's man gets drunk on cake due to weird condition. See, this guy was getting lit up every birthday for his entire life. He's like 2 and he's sloshed. All right, it says 62-year-old Nick Carson suffers from a rare condition that turns carbohydrates directly into alcohol. Some people are known to have so-called sweet tooth due to their penchant for cakes, chocolates, and other treats. But for Carson, a former business owner from Suffolk, England, eating anything rich in carbs can make him literally drunk because his body turns him into alcohol. Wow. Known as auto-brewery syndrome. It's got a name called brewery syndrome. He's brewing booze. The condition means that he can become blind drunk within a matter of minutes from just eating cakes and biscuits. He's now forced to take a breathalyzer device everywhere he goes. Poor guy. Wow. It's believed that his condition was caused by chemicals he was exposed to 20 years ago. So it's not something he's had since being born. Okay. I basically become involuntary alcoholic because this condition makes you one, whether you want to be or not. He said, having a little bit of sugar or carbs can quickly make me become drunk. I try to stick to a keto-based diet, but it's hard because there are carbs in all sorts of foods. I can go from being stone cold sober to 3 times over the driving limit in a matter of minutes, which is really scary. The effect isn't pleasant, and I have sections of my memory where I have no idea what I've done. I just talk rubbish and walk around in circles. Oh, that poor guy. I'm chuckling because I'm trying to imagine. But, it's certainly got to be an ordeal for this guy. Fortunately, his wife has been extremely supportive and is helping him to cope with the condition. I hope that sharing my story will help people become more knowledgeable about ABS, or what is it called again? Auto brewery syndrome, he said. Well, it's just funny because, God, he'd be a cheap date, wouldn't he? He just Netflix and Jill just give him a cupcake. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate as hell, but I'm here all alone, so what do you do? I got to entertain myself as well, folks. But how's that for news? I hope you enjoyed it, because it's all over. All right, folks, I'm back at it here on the normal Paranormal Portal desk, which is not that different from the other one. We've got about 6 minutes before the break here, so let me just see. Is there something else I can... Oh, there was one other one that I was thinking of reading but didn't end up reading. But now I'm gonna read it because I got a second here. If I can find it quickly. Otherwise, I'm going to be mumbling until the break time comes. Here's one I got to read to you. This one's kind of a news addendum. Drunk man changes his name to Celine Dion. A super fan of Canadian singer recently made the drunken decision to change his name in honor of her. 30-year-old Thomas Dodd from Clifton, Campville, England, made the unfortunate decision after drinking too much booze while watching a Celine Dion concert on TV over the festive period. He only realized what he'd done after receiving the official documents in the mail. So during lockdown, I've been watching a lot of live concerts on the TV, he said. I can only think I've been watching one of hers and had a great idea after a few drinks. I walked in from work and there was a big white envelope with "Do Not Bend" written across it. I nearly passed out in my kitchen when I opened it. My initial concern was, how on earth do I tell the HR department at work that I need to change my email folder? Now I'm thinking it could be a great way to get backstage. Although his friends saw the funny side, his mom wasn't too impressed. I did explain it could be worse, and it could have been Boris Johnson. We're just lucky he doesn't have any live concerts. She's laughing about it now, he said. As things stand, however, he has no plans to change his name back anytime soon. I'll figure it out. I'm not rushing to change it back, that's for sure, he said. The man changed his name to Celine Dion, folks. I don't know. You just can't make this stuff up. Let's see. You imagine getting pulled over by the cops. What's your name, sir? Celine Dion. They would be throwing you in jail so quick. Oh, wise guy, huh? Uh-huh. That was hilarious. Wow, you just don't know. You just don't know what you're going to find in this whole dig for the news, folks. But there's lots of strange people out there. I don't know. I'm just saying, good to see all you guys. All 67 of you. Wow, that's a lot of people in the YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. And a bunch of you are still in TFR, too. I am absolutely honored to be the center of all of your attention. We've got about 3 minutes before the first break. Now, if you're new to the show, here's the deal. We are also simulcasting on TFRlive.com, on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live as well. And so every half hour that we're doing the show on Fridays and Saturday nights, we have to take a break. And so that's why you're going to bump into breaks if you're here. All I can tell you is those of you on YouTube, you will have little video montages I put together with music to deal with breaks. And those of you on TFR and iHeart and TuneIn and TalkStream Live, you're hearing commercials. But rather than play commercials for the YouTube crowd, I put together those video things in order to keep everything in sync. So don't think that I had no other plans or just wanted to, be lazy and not talk so much. It's just because I have to. I have to take these breaks. So we love commercials. Algorithm says it pays the bills. Amen. It does pay the bills, keeps the lights on, that's for sure. Because this is a labor of love, folks. But it's just a necessary evil. And those, I often get comments on the YouTube like, what's with the brakes? What's with the brakes? And I understand. Because it's just like, it's not because I wasn't creative enough to fill all the time. It's that we have to keep things in sync. So we're just about 2 minutes out of a break. I would like to say that following the Paranormal Portal, many of you came from Kev Baker, Freaky Friday. Following the portal, if you stick around on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, or TalkStream Live, or visit her YouTube page, you can check out Paisley Wild, The Spaces Between, which is coming up next. And she has another 2-hour show and deals with a lot of esoteric, occult, paganism, spiritualism. She does a great job. She's a very nice person, a good friend. And so it'd be great if you checked out her show. And after that, of course, comes World Bigfoot Radio. So there's all kinds of entertainment still to come on the networks if you're tuning in there. We've got a lot more to come here on the portal. We're going to be getting into some Bigfoot information. There's some discussion about superpowers we're going to have next, right after we come back from break. And it's pretty interesting stuff. And I realize that sounds fantastic and out of this world, but let me assure you these powers are real and very, very unique. So we'll get into that when we come back in just we're about 30 seconds out of the break right now. Again, I'd like to take this moment to let you all know, if you're not already familiar with it, we do have a podcast. It's the Paranormal Portal podcast, and you can find that on all of the major podcast platforms, which is iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, CastBox, Google Play, and any others that you know of. I'm pretty sure I think we're on all of them as it is. So I don't know if you listen to podcasts, but if you do, definitely check us out. And if you're a subscriber, that'd be great. If you are subscribed, if you're not, please get subscribed. It'll help us out a ton. And leave reviews. All right, folks, first break right now. Stick around. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes with Superpowers and so much more. Don't go away. gentlemen, welcome back. Second half hour is upon us here in the Paranormal Portal, on the Paranormal Portal, through the Paranormal Portal. And I'm your host still, Mr. Brent Thomas. You can just call me Brent for short. But welcome, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great night, and thank you so much for being here. I guess we're going to get into more of the paranormal because that's what we do here. One thing I found for tonight, I thought that was really interesting. I think some of the most popular movies around right now are the Marvel movies, and even the DC ones are decent. Everybody has their own favorites and their own opinions, but I think it's showcasing this idea, and maybe it's something that resonates with us on a subconscious level that we're more than this. And we can watch these characters on the screen do so much more and do feats that, are just to the imagination. But I think that we are kind of conditioned in our life and in our world to feel a lot of times weak and powerless. And so we gravitate towards the heroes and stuff. And while all of these things that are showcased are flights of fancy and maybe born of legends and myths from ages past, but there are people that seem to demonstrate these superhuman qualities and have abilities that transcend the normal into the super normal, I guess. I don't know how, I guess it can't be normal at all, into the super, maybe just the super. But I thought this was pretty interesting. And what I'm talking about, it seems to be born of a lot of indigenous peoples from around the world that have kind of developed a bit differently than the rest of us and have emerged to develop these abilities that they seem like, they're beyond human. But let's get into this now. And what I'm talking about is an article that I uncovered from listverse.com, and it's 10 tribes with superpowers you wish you had. And let's get into talking about this because pretty interesting. It says, ever wished you had a superpower of some sort? There are entire tribes of people who have seemingly superhuman abilities that we can only dream of. Sometimes these people do not even realize that they're exceptional until it is pointed out to them. These tribes got their superpowers due to various factors, including their foods, climates, and lifestyles. In several instances, the sources of these abilities are explainable, but nevertheless, these superpowers give them an edge over other humans in sports and in other ways. So the first one is number 10, the Kalenjin of Kenya are the world's best long-distance runners. Everyone knows that Kenya has the world's best marathon runners. What most people do not know is that the majority of these runners are from the same tribe. Enter the Kalenjin, Kalenjin, the world's best long-distance runners. Several scientists, researchers, and sports analysts have tried to explain why the tribe dominates long-distance running. Although their starch-rich diets, the location of their homeland, and coincidental social and economic factors have been fingered as possible reasons, no one has come to a definitive conclusion. However, it is suspected to have something to do with genetics. The Kalenjin have small ankles and calves and a slim stature, which is just perfect for marathon running. Body size is important in determining who will win a marathon because people with smaller ankles and calves use less energy than others. It is even said that one can guess the winner of a marathon by checking which of the contestants has the smallest ankles and calves. I did not know that, but I of course, I've heard the discussion about these peoples from around the world. There's one tribe in Central America or South America where they can run for like 24 hours straight, and they're even at high altitude, as I recall, and I don't remember the name, but they can just go and go and go and go. Now, there was a show that was on television. It was called Stan Lee's Superhumans or something to that effect, Superheroes, Superhumans. And there was a guy featured on there, and he was really unique in that he could do that as well. Now, he was a Caucasian guy, but he had a unique difference in his physiology, and that was that he never built up excesses of lactic acid. When we exercise, the sugars and carbs and the energies get turned into I don't remember how this works exactly. It's amino acids and lactic acids, and apparently, when we fatigue is when we have an overabundance of lactic acid. But the way this guy's body worked, he never built up that high level of the lactic acids, so he never experienced that cramping and fatigue and that wear and tear like most everyone else did. And I don't know that that's the case for these other indigenous peoples, but he was certainly an example of someone whose physiology had somehow changed and adapted, and he was able to determine that, you know, he could do this, and he can do these extended periods of physical exercise well beyond what normal people can do, because he just doesn't reach that point of over fatigue due to the extra, I think it's lactic acid. And forgive me if I'm wrong. I'm not a scientist, but yeah, Rebecca in the TFR chat said she saw that episode. and it's incredible. I mean, I think that our bodies are actually, they actually have potential to do all of these things. Now, is it something that can be trained and conditioned? I don't know. For something like we can't change our physiology in form of smaller ankles and calves as suggested by that article. I mean, we can certainly lose weight and get more emaciated and lose body fat and train ourselves to be better runners. But, you know, these people definitely by their genetics have the improved advantage of just the way that they grow. And the same for this guy. Now, I think that was just the case his whole life. He was born that way, and it's, again, from genetics. But it'll be interesting to see how all of this evolves, you know, through our advances in medical sciences and sciences. Like, will you be able to just go get a kind of a genetic modification where you could run all day and all night and never get tired and never run out of energy other than your, you know, caloric needs to keep your body moving? But is that a possibility? And maybe it is. But there's a bunch more on this list that I think are really incredible as well. The next is the Bajau people of Indonesia. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Bajau. People of Indonesia can hold their breath underwater for an unusually long time. The Bajau people of Indonesia are called sea nomads or sea gypsies because of their ability to remain underwater for several minutes without any equipment. The most experienced divers can remain underwater for 13 minutes before returning to the surface to breathe. Researchers from Cambridge University discovered that the Bajau people can do this because their bodies adapted to diving, causing their spleens to increase by 50%. Before the discovery, researchers had always suspected the size of our spleens had something to do with our ability to remain underwater. A larger spleen compresses underwater, releasing oxygen-rich blood into the body. This reduces oxygen use and allows us to stay underwater for longer. In this case, in the case of the Bajau people, they have a unique gene that increases secretion of the thyroid hormone T4, which causes larger spleens. I didn't have any clue. I got to admit, I never really knew what the spleen was for. You always hear about that. Spleens come up every once in a while, like, oh, he shattered his spleen or he split his spleen or something. You know, I've heard about it in accidents. But I was like, I never thought to ask, what's a spleen? What does that do? So I guess I know now. And if you got a bigger spleen, you might be better suited to diving. That's interesting. Very interesting. Here's the next one. Also another Indonesian tribe of people. The Moken people of Indonesia can see underwater. What is cooler than being able to hold your breath underwater? Seeing underwater. This ability is limited to the children of the Moken people of Western Thailand. Why did it say Indonesia? Okay. I guess they got that wrong. But like the Bajau people of Indonesia, the Moken live by the seaside and are also called water nomads. Unlike other kids, however, the Moken children have excellent eyesight underwater. In 1999, Anna Gislin, a researcher with the University of Lund, traveled to Thailand to live with the Moken people and study their superpower. She realized that the eyesight of their children was 2 times better underwater than that of European children, and interestingly, she also observed that adult Moken cannot see as well underwater. Gislin initially suspected that the eyes of the children had evolved, but that was not the case because it would have affected the eyesight outside of the water. On careful observation, she realized that the children could constrict their pupils and change the shape of the lenses of their eyes, two factors necessary for underwater eyesight. In fact, this is how seals and dolphins see underwater. To confirm her theory, Ghislaine trained some European children in Thailand and Swedish children in Sweden. Some European children in Thailand and some Swedish children in Sweden to control their pupils and lenses underwater. A month later, they could see as well underwater as the Moken children. The European children did not find it easy, though. Unlike the Moken children, their eyes always turned red because of the salty seawater, but they would have adapted to that too if the training continued. Moken adults cannot see that well underwater because their lenses are already rigid, just like that of adults elsewhere. From all indications, it's unlikely that Moken children will maintain their superpower for long. The entire tribe was moved far inland after an earthquake-induced tsunami destroyed their seaside village in 2004. They no longer have such easy access to the sea. That's actually really tragic because they're a water people, and you would, it's kind of a heartbreaker to think that they're now removed from the sea due to that disaster. I hope they're able to make it back. Here's one that everybody knows: the Sherpas. Sherpas are expert mountain climbers. Climbing Everest or any other mountain would be a daunting task for the average person, but not for the Sherpas. They're excellent mountain climbers with the ability to seek out previously unknown routes. Today, people climb Mount Everest always go with Sherpa guides. Research revealed that Sherpas are excellent mountain climbers because their bodies manage oxygen better at higher altitudes than the average person. This should not be a surprise. The Sherpas have been living on the Himalayas for over 6,000 years, which is more than enough time for their bodies to adapt to the extremely cold temperatures and the low oxygen needs or levels. The Sherpas are also immune to the nasty side effects and sometimes fatal ailments that affect other climbers. Oxygen decreases as we go higher up Mount Everest, and in response, the body produces more red blood cells to feed the muscles with the required oxygen. At the same time, these excess blood cells make the blood thicker, stressing the heart. The Sherpas also experience the same thing, but at a much lower rate. This is not all. Their bodies also are able to produce more oxygen more energy in the absence of oxygen. Wow. I didn't know there was that much of a physiological difference, but that's really cool. Is this now some would say, is this evolution at work? Is this proof of I guess it's not really evolution as much as adaptability, right? I mean, our bodies can respond. We all have the ability to respond to changed circumstances. So I guess these are more extreme in that case, but still. Number 6, let me look at the clock here so we don't go too long. Okay, yeah, we're fine. 6, some native Ecuadorian sufferers of Laron syndrome are immune to cancer and diabetes. Immune. That's excellent. It says Laron syndrome is an ailment that causes a mutation in the human growth hormone receptor, leading to dwarfism. It is common among members of a tribe in a remote village in Ecuador. No one thought much of the syndrome until Dr. Jaime Guevara Aguirre, who had been working with the tribe, realized that tribesmen with the syndrome were almost immune to diabetes and cancer. In contrast, tribesmen without the syndrome were highly susceptible to cancer and diabetes. To confirm his suspicion, Guevara Aguirre partnered with Dr. Walter de Longo of the University of Southern California to run lab tests with serum made from genes of the Laron patients. The researchers added the serum to human cells that had been deliberately damaged, and they discovered that the serum stopped these cells from experiencing more genetic damage. At the same time, these cells destroyed themselves instead of turning cancerous. Wow. Wouldn't it be neat if they figured out the cure to these ailments like diabetes and cancer just by studying these people? Wow. That's awesome. Number 5, Some of the Fore people of Papua New Guinea are immune to Kuru and mad cow disease. Kuru is the name of the deadly brain disease that broke out amongst members of the Fore tribe in Papua New Guinea in the 20th century. It was the result of tribesmen eating the brains of their dead as part of their burial rites. Oh, dear God. Okay. Some of the consumed brains were infected with prion disease, which caused Kuru. The majority of the deaths occurred in the 1950s, forcing the tribesmen to abandon the tradition. At the time, 2% of the tribesmen died every year. Today, several tribesmen are immune to Kuru and will not get it even if they eat the infected brain of a dead person. They're also immune to similar diseases, including mad cow disease. This protection has been traced to the unique V127 genetic mutation present in their bodies of Kuru survivors. Descendants of tribesmen who never had Kuru do not have the mutation or the immunity to Kuru and mad cow disease. To test their theory, researchers used genetic engineering to develop some mice with the mutation before injecting the animals with the different brain diseases, and they found that the mice were immune to Kuru, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, depending on whether the animals had 1 or 2 copies of the V127 mutation. As for the Fore people, researchers believe that all of them would have become immune to Kuru and similar brain diseases if they had continued to eat the brains of their dead. Oh, that's such a practice. I can't imagine that. It's like, well, folks, grandma passed the bowl. Oh, jeez. All right. The Tsimane people of Bolivia are almost immune to heart disease. There's hope for us all. The Tsimane people of Bolivia have the lowest risk of heart disease in the world. Between 2004 and 2015, researchers tested hundreds of tribesmen and discovered that 90% had clear arteries, which is directly linked to a lower possibility of contracting heart disease. At the same time, they have lower blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. Researchers attributed this uniqueness to the diet and lifestyle of the Tsimane people. They eat unprocessed carbohydrates along with little fat and protein, and they get their protein from animals they hunt and the fish they catch. They're also very active and work long hours. Sounds like a good exercise program. I think we'd all have a lot better with heart disease if we didn't eat so much crap and exercise more. That might be the solution for all of us. I'm just saying. The Hmong people of China can communicate by whistling. Whistling is not exclusive to the Hmong people of China. Several tribes around the world independently learned to communicate via whistling. However, they are usually located in mountainous regions where people live far apart. The Hmong live at the foot of the Himalayas. The Hmong farmers whistle to chat on farms, while hunting in the jungle and to send love messages at night. Everyone understands what the lovers are saying, but they do not recognize the people because the whistle is not individually identifiable like a voice. This allows the lovers to remain anonymous while passing messages. Some even add nonsense whistles to confuse the listeners. Dang it, they're listening. A tribe on one of the Canary Islands also communicates via whistling. Their whistling language is called the Cebu Gonero and sounds so similar to birdsong that some birds are imitating it. Some Amazonian tribes are also use whistling to communicate while hunting in the jungle, and this is safer than speech because whistling will not startle game. The Inuit communities of the Bering Strait also use whistling to communicate when whale hunting. Whistling's even been used in warfare. The Berbers of North Africa used it to pass secret messages during their resistance against France during World War II. Australia hired WAM speakers from Papua New Guinea to transmit and decode whistled messages to prevent the interception of radio messages by the Japanese. Number 2, some Aboriginal Australians have superb vision. Looking for humans with the best eyesight? Check with the Aboriginal people of Australia. Some have eyesight 4 times better than the average person. This allows them to see things that are 4 times smaller than what the average person can see. Other Aboriginal Australians do not have such superb eyesight, although they can see 2 or 3 times better than the average person. Some Aboriginal people work as spotters for the Australian Army because they can perceive humans at extremely long distances. They are also used to spot illegal immigrants, boats, and illegal fishing boats in Australian waters. This superior vision is believed to be the result of the hunter-gatherer nature of ancient Aboriginal people who needed superb eyesight to survive in the wild. Unfortunately, today's Aboriginal Australians do not always have their remarkable eyesight into old age due to several factors, including poor hygiene and diabetes. Original people above 40 are 6 times likelier to go blind than other Australians. Aw, yeah, that's tough. And number 1, the Okinawans of Japan live the longest. Looking for the oldest people, look no further than the native people of Okinawa, Japan. They are likelier to reach age 100 than the members of any other tribe in the world. Okinawa boasts having the largest concentration of centenarians in the world. Longevity among Okinawans has been traced to their healthy diet. They eat lots of whole grains, soy, tofu, vegetables, sweet potatoes, fish, squid, and octopus. Despite their large centenarian population, the Okinawans have been suffering from a steady decline in health within the past few years. This has been traced to increased consumption of fast food from outlets that followed the opening of the U.S. base in the area. Yeah, leave it to our fast foods to screw up a good thing, right? So what do you guys think? Do you think there's these are extraordinary? Do you think that they're not as extraordinary? What are your thoughts? I think it's really impressive myself. And I think that we as a global community, I think have not begun to tap our potential. And these are just very biological examples of what may be possible for us to develop in time. But just think if combined with the fact that I believe we're incredible manifestors, what could we create? What could we be? You know, how much better could we be than what we are? Now, the one thing that I think is consistent through all of these stories of the superpowers is the fact that these cultures are primarily living the same way that their ancestors lived. They don't have our Western approach to life, and that is broadband. It's high definition. It's stereo sound and bright colors and scents, and we spend our whole lives drowning ourselves in our senses in our Western societies because we've been conditioned to. We're conditioned to be consumers and users of things, but there are many tribes that still live in balance with their world and stuff. And I'm not coming from a high horse here. I'm a terrible example of a person not living as well as I should or could. I love the internet, and I'm not downgrading any of this stuff. I mean, I just think it's a matter of finding balance. But these cultures have existed pretty much the same way for hundreds or thousands of years. And so it stands to reason that their bodies over those times would develop and adapt and create, what we would consider, quote unquote superpowers. Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think we are not living up to our potential. I think we have so much more to give, both in the energetic ways and in the physical ways. I think that, you can't ignore one and only acknowledge the other. And I think that that's maybe the key to realizing more of our potential. But I think it's cool. I think it's, it's amazing what is possible. But you guys, have to come to your own conclusions. We're just about to go to the hour break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some Bigfoot stuff, in specifically some tribal legends and stories and references to the Bigfoot and all of the things, many of the things that means throughout the indigenous First Nations of the United States and Canada. And so I've read through a bunch of it before the show, and it's really pretty beautiful. You know, I think that they may be onto something for a number of reasons, but we'll get into that when we come back. So definitely stay tuned. There's a lot more Portal coming, folks. So I hope you'll stick with me past the hour break. And again, we got to take the breaks because we got to stay in sync with the network where we're also broadcasting right now. So stick around. We're not done yet. I got more for you. All right, we're going to go to our break here. Just give me a couple minutes. I'll be right back, and we'll continue our journey through the Paranormal Portal.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
A nightmare from which they cannot wake. I can't see you, Mommy. Where are you? I've never sensed anything like it. Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
So can that intro, ladies and gentlemen, can go on for years. Welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 is upon us here on the Paranormal Portal. And as such, I brought lots of fun and paranormal goodness. Fresh from the ovens here at the Paranormal Portal. We serve it fresh here, folks. I hope you enjoy it. So, let's get to it. I promised you, and I meant what I said. We're going to get into an article that I thought was absolutely cool, and I'd never run into this before. But I think it's quite interesting and heartwarming. Let me find it now. There it is. I found it. You have to understand, I've got like 3 screens going on here. And remember, the phone lines are open. If you want to call in, please, if I'm not in the middle of a long article. If I'm in the middle of a long article, it's hard for me to see when somebody calls. So just be patient with me. But if you do want to call in, 720-923-0500. So what we're going to talk about now is an article I found that I thought was really cool. It's called Pre-Columbian and Early American Legends of Bigfoot-like Beings. Sorry, little froggy here. Ribbit. Oh. I would like to say just quickly, if you are new to the show and you enjoy what you're seeing, you want to stick around and know what we're doing, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Like the video if you would, please. It helps us out a ton in terms of the YouTube algorithm and getting this recommended to other people. So if you would, please do that. But subscribe, like, let other people know. That means the world to us. So just throwing that out there. Just a thought. Sorry. I think I'm kind of like fighting a cold. I'm not sure what's going on. Just feel like I'm a little raspy and a little heavy today, but hopefully the entertainment is still good. But here's the article I was talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is coming from the BFRO. This is not their article. It says it was originally printed in the Western Bigfoot Society's newsletter, The Track Record, excerpted from Legends Beyond Psychology, by Henry James Franzen III, reprinted with permission from all parties, and we're certainly thrilled to show it here as well. So this is it's a beautiful, beautiful work, but it says, here in the Northwest and west of the Rockies general, Indian people regard Bigfoot with great respect. He is seen as a species, or a special kind being. Let me try that again. He is seen as a special kind of being because of his obvious close relationship with humans. Some elders regard him as standing on the border between animal-style consciousness and human-style consciousness, which gives him a special kind of power. It's not that Bigfoot's relationship to make him superior to other animals in Indian culture. Unlike Western culture, animals are not regarded as inferior to humans, but rather as elder brothers and teachers of humans. But tribal cultures everywhere are based on relationship and kinship. The closer the kinship, the stronger the bond. Many Indian elders in the Northwest refuse to eat bear meat because of the bear's similarity to humans. Excuse me. And Bigfoot is obviously much more similar to humans than is the bear. As beings who blend the natural knowledge of animals with something of the distinctive type of consciousness called intelligence that humans have, Bigfoot is regarded as a special type of being. But special being he is. I've never heard anyone from a northwestern tribe suggest that Bigfoot is anything other than a physical being, living in the same physical dimensions as human and other animals. He eats, he sleeps, he poops. He cares for his family members. However, among many Indians elsewhere in North America, is widely separated at the Hopi, the Sioux, the Iroquois, and the northern Athabascan. Bigfoot is seen more as a sort of supernatural or spirit being, whose appearance to humans is always meant to convey some sort of or kind of message. Excuse me. The Lakota or Western Sioux call Bigfoot Chie-Tonka. Chie-Tonka in Dakota or Eastern Sioux. Chie means elder brother, and Tonka means great or big. In English, though, the Sioux usually call him the Big Man. In his book, The Spirit of Crazy Horse, from Viking Publishers, 1980, a nonfiction account of the events dramatized by the excellent recent movie, Thunderheart, author Peter Mathiasson recorded some comments about Bigfoot made by traditional Sioux people. And some members of other Indian nations, but Joe Flying By, Hunk Papa Lakota, told Mathiasson, "I think the Big Man is kind of a husband of Unksa, the earth, who is wise in the way of anything, with its own natural wisdom. Sometimes we say that this one is a kind of reptile from the ancient times who can take a big hairy form. I also think he can change into a coyote. Some of the people who saw him did not respect what they were seeing, and they were already gone. There is your big man standing there, ever waiting, ever present, like the coming of a new day." Oglala Lakota medicine man Pete Catches, KM, told Mathiasson he is both spirit and real being, but he can also glide through the forest like a moose with big antlers, as though the trees weren't even there. "I know him as my brother. I want him to touch me, just a touch, a blessing, something I could bring home to my sons and grandchildren. That I was there, that I approached him, and he touched me." Ray Owen, son of Dakota spiritual leader from Prairie Island Reservation of Minnesota, told a reporter from the Red Wing Republican Eagle, it's a newspaper there, "They exist in another dimension from us, but can appear in this dimension wherever they have a reason to. See, it's like there are many levels, many dimensions. When our time in this one is finished, we move on to the next. But the big man can go between. The big man comes from God. He's our big brother, kind of looks out for us. 2 years ago, we were going downhill, really self-destructive. We needed a sign to put us back on track. And that's why the big man appeared." Ralph Graywolf, a visiting Athabascan Indian from Alaska, told the reporter, "In our way of beliefs, they make appearances at troubled times to help troubled Indian communities get more in tune with Mother Earth. Bigfoot brings signs or messages that there is a need to change, a need to cleanse." This is Minnesota News article Giant Footprint Signals a Time to Seek Change, from July 23rd, 1988. A commenter provided additional detail or information on this term. Rougarou comes from the Michif language spoken by the Metis people. Michif is actually a French Cree Algonquin hybrid language. The word Rougarou is indeed a Cree pronunciation of Loup-garou. I don't know why that was included. Okay. I'm not sure that the Rougarou, Loup-garou is as much a Bigfoot as it sounds like a dogman to me from everything that I've heard. It sounds lupin or at least, canid. It doesn't sound primate or human-like, other than this, that is bipedal and walks bipedally as well. But I'm just reading the article, as it were, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Hold on. Matthiasen reported similar views among the Turtle Mountain Ojibwe in North Dakota, that Bigfoot, whom they call Rougarou, appears in symptoms of danger or psychic disruptions to the community. When I read this, I wondered if it contradicted my hypothesis that the Ojibways had identified Bigfoot with Wendigo. Well, he wrote Wendigo. I don't know if Wendigo is the same as Wendigo. The sinister cannibal giant of their legends. Yes, it is. Okay. See track record number 14. I had surmised that because I had never heard of any other names for or references to Bigfoot in Ojibwe culture, even though there must have been sightings in woodlands around the Great Lakes, and indeed sightings in that region have been reputed by non-Indians, but the Turtle Mountain Band is one of the few Ojibwe bands that have moved much further west than most of their nation. And Rougarou is not a native Ojibwe word, nor does it come from the language of neighboring Indian peoples. However, it has a striking sound similarity to the French word for werewolf, loup-garou. Okay. And there is quite a bit of French influence among the Turtle Mountain Ojibwe. French-Canadian trappers and missionaries were the first whites that they dealt with extensively, and many tribal members today bear French surnames. So it doesn't seem far-fetched that the Turtle Mountain Ojibwe picked up the French name for hairy human-like being, while at the same time taking on their neighbor's positive, reverent attitude towards Bigfoot. After all, the Plains Cree, even though they remain a memory of their eastern cousins' tradition of the Wetiko, as the Wendigo is called in Cree, have seemed similarly to take on the western tribes' view of Bigfoot as they moved west. Excuse me. The Hopi elders say that the increasing appearances of Bigfoot are only a message or warning to the individuals or communities to whom he appears. But to humankind at large, as Matthiasen puts it, they see Bigfoot as a messenger who appears in evil times as a warning from the Creator that man's disrespect for his sacred instructions has upset the harmony and balance of existence. To the Hopi, the big hairy man is just one form that the messenger can take. The Iroquois, Six Nations Confederacy, of the Northeast, although they live in close proximity to the Eastern Algonquian tribes, with their Wendigo legends, view Bigfoot much in the same way as the Hopi do, as a messenger from the Creator trying to warn humans to change their ways or face disaster. However, mentioned among Iroquois much more often than Bigfoot are the little people, who are said to inhabit the Adirondacks. Sorry, I always have trouble with that word, Adirondack. I used to keep saying Adirondack. I could not say Adirondacks. The Adirondack Mountains. I never heard of any first-hand stories among the Iroquois about encounters with these little people, for that matter. I never heard any first-hand stories in that region about Bigfoot either. But the Iroquois passed down stories about hunters who occasionally saw small human-like beings in the Adirondacks, which are not all that far from the Catskills, where Rip Van Winkle was alleged to have met some little bowlers and slept for 100 years. Some present-day Iroquois assert that the little people are still here, just not seen as often because the Iroquois don't spend as much time hunting up in the mountains as they used to. Many Iroquois seem to regard both Bigfoot and the little people as spiritual or interdimensional beings who can enter or leave our physical dimension as they please, and choose to whom they present themselves, and always for a reason. Stories about small humanoids who inhabit wild places are found in many areas of the world, especially Europe. The Kiowa tell a story about several young men who decide to go exploring south from their Texas home for many days, seeing many new things until they come to a strange forest, obviously the jungles of southern Mexico, whose trees were home to small furred humanoids with tails. This they found to be too weird, so they immediately headed back for home. I never thought to connect the stories about the little people with the Sasquatch until Ray Crow brought up the possibility of the connection. After all, if there may be large relatives of humans living in remote areas, would it be so impossible for there to be small ones? Details that stretch credulity, even as pots of gold, pointed and belled caps, games and ninepins, etc., could conceivably be embellishments added over generations to some genuine accounts of sightings. Throughout native North America, Bigfoot is seen as a kind of brother to humans, even among those eastern Algonquian tribes to whom Bigfoot represents the incarnation of the Wendigo, the human who is transformed into a cannibalistic monster by tasting human flesh in time of starvation. His fearsomeness comes from his very closeness to humans. The Wendigo is the embodiment of the hidden, terrifying temptation within them to turn to eating other humans when no other food is to be had. He was still their elder brother, but a brother who represented a human potential they feared. As such, the Wendigo's appearance was a sort of constant warning to them, a reminder that a community whose members turn to eating each other is doomed much more surely than a community that simply has no food. So the figure of the Wendigo is not so far removed from the figure of the messenger coming to warn humankind of impending disaster, if it doesn't cease its destructive nature. The existence of Bigfoot is taken for granted throughout native North America, and so are his powerful psychic abilities. I can't count the number of times that I have heard elder Indian people say that Bigfoot knows when humans are searching for him, and that he chooses when and to whom to make an appearance, and that his psychic powers account for his ability to elude the white man's efforts to capture him or hunt him down. In Indian culture, the entire natural world, the animals, the plants, the rivers, the stars, is seen as a family, and Bigfoot is seen as one of the close relatives, the great elder brother. I think that's beautiful. I'm sorry. I read it as well as I could. I'm sorry. It's just, there's a lot of words that are not very familiar to me, so I was trying to take my time and make sure to pronounce them as correctly as I could. But folks, here's the thing. Bigfoot are seen disappearing. I've spoken to many witnesses who said it disappeared in front of me, or it was standing in front of me, but only half of it was, only the torso and head. And the rest of it was invisible, and then it took a step and it was all gone. And I never knew what to do with that. What do you do with that? How does that quantify? How can I quantify that in my head? I'm just a person from the Midwest, and being presented with these circumstances that are just so far removed from every reality that I had ever known. So to hear those things, it was always a struggle for me. Not that I didn't believe them. I believed that they saw what they said they saw. I just didn't know. For me, part of the journey into this paranormal portal stuff is to understand, to learn, and to understand what it means. So I kind of really gravitate towards what they're saying. And many other, there's many people out there that say, look, there may be a multidimensional entity. And certainly that would align with these First Nation principles that we just read, that the Bigfoot is not just primarily from here. It's not primarily from this world that we know. It maybe has a foot in more than one world. Maybe it can pass through. I don't know. If you think of dimensions, it sounds like another dimension is might as well be a universe away, even though it's just a breath away or just a flash of light away. But what if dimensions are vibrational? What if it's a frequency? And what if we pass through them all the time without knowing? Like maybe we change frequencies. Maybe that accounts for some of the Mandela effects that people report. That suddenly it's not mirror, mirror on the wall. It's magic mirror on the wall. No, it's not. It never was. Well, it is now. Why is that? How can so many people have these disjointed memories? Maybe we are trans-dimensional creatures too. We just don't know it. That the transition is so seamless, and in our distracted, unaware state, that we're generally in our culture, maybe we do go right through the dimensions too. Maybe we cease to exist in another dimension a while ago. And maybe we do it as groups, maybe as a culture. We move through these dimensions. And that's what we regard as change. I don't know. I'm just throwing out food for thought, ideas. Where did you find that article? That article is from the BFRO, Mid-South Sasquatch Cryptid Research. That's from the BFRO. I'm sorry, I didn't. Let me try to pull that back up if I can. I did close it, but let me look. It's a beautiful, beautiful article. But for so many of these ancient cultures regarding them as as Big Brother, as a harbinger or an omen of sorts, I think is very powerful too. Because I've long thought they choose when they're seen. How many times do people go in the woods looking for them and never find a thing? But then suddenly, somebody be doing their garden, oops, you saw me, and then it walks right by. What if it is a messenger of sorts? What if it does have more meaning than that? BFRO. There we go. Let me do this. I'm going to put that link in there. Just give me a second while I figure out where the hell I found that. Let's see. Not there. Okay, here it is. All right. This is the one. All right, let me put this link in our chats so you guys can check out that article too as you want. I'll post it on TFR as well as in our YouTube chat. Here you go. There. That's the article page that hosts that article. I like that idea. It may be a thing. Yeah, it might be. I don't know. But here's the thing. Lots of cryptids out there. What did you say? I saw it for a second. Some can shapeshift. Yeah, I mean, there's reports of that as well. That's a great point. I don't know how to say her name. Arturo, Sasquatch. AS. I'll just call you AS. That's a great point. There's so many other cryptids and skinwalkers. There's so many claims of people seeing transformations, seeing things like that, where things are changing shape. There's a researcher, and I don't have his permission to share his story. And I tried to reach out to him to get him on the show, but he said he was interested, and then he kind of dropped off. But I don't know. Am I disconnected? What happened? Oh, there we go. But he was up in Canada researching. I think he's up in Ontario or somewhere up in there, and he was researching. He's an avid researcher of Sasquatch. He has had a close encounter or two, really incredible stories, and I'm not going to share those, but one story in particular, he was up camping in the back of his truck up on a logging road up in the mountains, and he was sitting there. It was all him up alone in the hills in the wilderness. And he said he was just up watching and listening, and he saw this little person, a little man, go across the logging trail about maybe 50, 60 feet away. He was sitting absolutely quiet, at least, and he said this thing walked across the logging trail. It saw him, turned and ran underneath a pine tree, and he got out of his car as quick as he could, ran over there. He was just sitting in the back of his pickup truck in the box, just sitting there relaxing, and ran over there, turned on his flashlight, and under that tree was not a little person. It was like a muskrat. In his estimation, it was like it shapeshifted. And I thought, my God, how amazing is that? Is it possible? And it's hard for us to get our heads around those things. But folks, these legends and stories come from somewhere. People have seen something that they can't explain. And I realize that it's very foreign to a lot of other people, a lot of us, but do we have the right to dismiss that and say, that's not what you saw? I mean, who has that right? This is what these people experience. So there's a lot going on here that we don't understand. And, we're just beginning to tap the surface of what is reality. And so, take that to mean whatever you choose, but I don't think that any of us have the right to sit in any kind of judgment of anybody else's experiences. It's hard. I'll be the first to admit it's hard. I can't say I believe everything people have told me while doing this show, but I believe that what they're telling me is their truth. And I think that that's as fair as I can be, because some things I still can't wrap my head around, but I'm trying, and I keep an open mind because I can't know what they've experienced. I can't know what they've seen and what they've lived through, but I know, not that I can trust everybody, but I think that most people I've talked to have been genuine and sincere. And I believe that what they're telling me is the truth as they saw it. So hard to say, folks, but I'll tell you what, we're going to our last break. Can you believe it? This night has just flown by, and we'll come back and do some UFO stuff when we come back here. So there's even more to come. Another video with musical musings. And if you don't mind, those of you on YouTube, if you don't mind these breaks, I appreciate that. Don't give up. Don't leave. I may be taking attendance on the other side. So, all right, we'll be right back, folks. Don't go away. right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the last half hour, if you can believe it or not. Again, make sure to stick around after the show if you're listening on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, because Paisley Wild's coming up next. The Spaces Between. Yep, she's coming. I love that show. It's coming up next. So, just had a great question in the chat from Brooks, newer name in here. Great to meet you, by the way. He says, so do you think people are just now telling their stories, or are more people seeing these things? You know, I think it's both. I think that certainly with the influx and number of shows dealing with these phenomena, from Bigfoot to dogmen to ghosts, and, you know, everywhere you turn, online and on television, you know, you go to any of the cables and it's like you could throw a stick and hit a paranormal show somewhere. I mean, it's just, there's this huge influx of this. And I think it's because, you know, now more than ever, it's okay to have the discussions. It's okay to have the dialogue. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, talking to experiencers, that in many cases, many of these people have been carrying these stories for a lifetime because they never felt like they could talk about it. And so with our current atmosphere of more openness to have these discussions, that's really helping a lot of people come forward and to, you know, discuss what they've seen and experienced, because they hadn't been able to before or felt that they couldn't. So we're certainly seeing an increase in the number of people willing to come forward. However, I do think that more of this stuff is happening. Now, here's where the part that it might kind of cook your bacon a little bit. So the question is there more of this stuff happening on its own accord, or is the fact that more people are open to it allowing more of it to happen? So in other words, do we kind of manifest or give it permission to happen because of a more cultural openness to the subject? And that may sound like, what do you mean? Well, I think we manifest our realities. And by that, maybe we manifest our acknowledgement of realities as well. And so with more people talking about this stuff, you know, are they more prone to notice things that they might have discarded before? Or are they, you know, making it okay for those things to happen around them? I think that some of this stuff happens as almost a form of permission. And it's hard to explain, but take, for instance, hauntings. We've talked about this many times on the show, that hauntings happen. But when hauntings start, they're usually these real subtle, almost, you can almost miss them. And at any moment, it would be things happening that aren't really over the top for the most part. For the most part, they're little things like, God, I know I put my keys down here. Where did my keys go? And you'll turn around, turn the house over, and then come back half hour later and find them right in that spot. And it's like, well, how did that happen? Well, I think those can be A ports and D ports. Ports are when, you know, you find things given from spirits, and D ports are when they're taking them away. So I think that keys and things like that, like misplacing things that you always put in the same place. Could it be human error? Sure. But it's so close to that possibility that it could be, but I don't think it is. I never do it. And then once there's an acknowledgement, it seems to increase. Sometimes by virtue of fear, because fear is also surrender. So as we grow in fear of something like, the cupboard door opened, I'm out of here. We get overwhelmed and we back off, and is that kind of a victory for this thing? So are we allowing it to manifest more by our surrender, is what I'm trying to say. So, because again, I'm gonna snowball this into a huge mess if I'm not careful, but but I think that, you know, we have the right to claim our space, and we also have the right to surrender it. And, you know, fear is a surrender, and it's a weakening, and so this other powers may be able to manifest more fully with our surrenders. So as we become afraid and back off, it expands and becomes more potent. Also in the fact that, you know, maybe we just notice things. Our minds are more opened, so we're not in that tunnel vision that we're always in our culture. So yes, I think there's more of it, but yes, I think there's more people talking about it as well and willing to come forward and share their stories than ever before. So I'm sorry, that was a real roundabout way of answering that, and I hope that makes sense, but just my 2 cents. Yes, I lived in a haunted house for years. There you go. Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, it's just, it's kind of an interesting time in that, you know, we can have these discussions now for the first time for many of these phenomena ever. You know, before, you know, it'd be the stuff to get you whispered about, like, oh yeah, there's a weirdy over there, and now it's like, oh yeah, Bill's seen a UFO. It's kind of more incidental than ever before. So I think that's a great question. Well, thank you for asking that. And if there's any other questions, I'll do my best to look for them. These are all just my opinions for whatever it's worth. Nobody knows for sure, but these are my opinions of it. So, Malia, wasn't Malia on Kev's show too? Oh, there. I think that's Malia was them there. Yeah. Well, I didn't even see him. Malia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thanks for coming in. If you're heading out, thank you so much for stopping in. That's cool. All right. So continuing our journey tonight through the paranormal portal. Well, we got to go back to the papers here that I got pulled up. Let me close this one because we're done with that. This one and this one. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about UFOs. We're kind of doing the whole buffet tonight, folks. And this one we're going to UFOs. And this is another thing from Listverse. Another list from Listverse. And this one is 10 truly unbelievable claims of UFO and alien encounters. So I'm hoping, I didn't really look too much at this, but I looked through it a little bit, and most of these are not as well known. So it's not just another Betty Barney Hill, Travis Walton, et cetera, Rendlesham Forest. This is more of the bizarre and awkward ones. This says all claims of UFOs and alien encounters are by their very nature a little bizarre and outlandish. Some of them, however, are just a little too outrageous for even the most enthusiastic and dedicated UFO researcher to believe, at least not in their entirety. And while the following 10 stories are most likely not genuine, there remains a tiny sliver of doubt that they might not be completely fabrications either. So with a huge pinch of salt and extra helpings, here are 10 UFO and alien encounter claims that are just a little too unbelievable. Number 10, George Adamski, an authentic initial sighting that descended into lies? Says the first... let me blow this up. This is... I don't know why they do this real faint font on a white background. That's just hell to try to read. All right, let's try this. That's a little better. I like that. The first person on our list is also one of the most well-known, at least at one point. George Adamski was very much considered the real deal in terms of contact with an extraterrestrial race. Even today, there's a disagreement among UFO circles as to whether his initial purported encounters were actually genuine, though plenty of believers in those are still sure that Adamski went on to fabricate and outright manufacture more stories, whether for money, attention, or both. True or not, beginning in November 1952, after several months of channeled directions, he would reportedly witness and capture a picture of a flying saucer shown above from his California home. And this is apparently the picture, so I better copy this over to TFR so they can check it out as well. Those of you in the TFR chat, here is the link that I'm reading right now. And apparently this is the picture of the craft he took right on the top from his California home. But by the time Adamski was making claims of trips to the moon, Venus, and various other locations in outer space, even his most ardent supporters were beginning to distance themselves. If there was any truth to the initial claims of George Adamski, it is a real shame that what appears to be obvious fabrication and outright manufacturing of events will overshadow it. Yeah, that's tragic. And, I can understand, because maybe this person really never got any kind of acknowledgement, and this was the one thing that happened and that everybody was interested in. And so there's a real psychology with that, I suppose. But it's unfortunate if that is the case. Well, what if it's true? Yeah, you're welcome, Bam. You're welcome, Bam. Maybe it is. Okay, so this is the next one. Elizabeth Clarer conceives an alien child on another planet. Well, that's good. At around the same time that Adamski was making his claims in the late 1950s in South Africa, Elizabeth Clarer would state not only that she made contact with an alien life form, but that she had gone to his home world and conceived a child with him. In fact, many skeptics would point out how many details of her claims were almost identical to those of Adamski. According to Claire, she successfully called down the alien she called Acorn, who would arrive in his scout ship, and from there, they would transfer to the main mothership and then travel to Meton, Akon's home planet. Meton. I like meat on my sandwich. Which, according to Claire, was in the Alpha Centauri system. However, the son they conceived would remain with Akon on Meton. As you might imagine, this did little for Claire's credibility. She would nevertheless stick to her story, despite the fact that she was almost universally not believed. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. All right, next comes Ludwig Paulmann, develops friendship with race of aliens. Yeah. No, I'm with you, Bam. I don't know much about it. But Bam says, strange things happen. It's possible, but I seem to doubt Adamski. Yeah. I can't claim to know too much about his claims, to be honest with you. I'm not an average historian on UFO stuff, but it's unfortunate. If it is fabrication, if it's true, then that's unfortunate too, because obviously people aren't giving it the gravity it deserves. So this is Ludwig Paulmann develops friendship with a race of aliens. In the mid-1960s, German businessman Ludwig Paulmann would claim to have discovered an alien base in Brazil and furthermore, to have established contact with its occupants. He had first made contact with one of these mysterious visitors on a Bombay, now called Mumbai, train at around 1964. He began speaking with him and noticed how strange his voice was, how perfectly white his hair glowed, and he would meet the same figure again later, learning that his name was, according to Paulmann, Satu Ra. And he was on business in South America. Satu is like the Indonesian number one, Satu. When he was on business in South America several years later, he would meet up with the apparent alien being once more, as well as members of his family. Among the many claims made by Paulmann was that the alien visitors were running various programs and experiments with the terrestrial fruit, which they were hybridizing in their secret bases on the planet. Furthermore, he was given a crystal ring that would glow and heat up slightly when the aliens were nearby. Wow. Perhaps one of the most outlandish of Paulmann's stories, if only because of its human-like quality, is of hearing of a disaster that had befallen an alien ship on another planet. One of the aliens had become introduced to previously named Ziti, was apparently killed. Shortly after this event, coincidentally or not, came several sightings of large silver disc where Paulmann claimed the aliens had their base. Needless to say, while many of the UFO community are aware of Paulmann's alleged encounter, most distance themselves from such claims. You got to think though, with anybody coming forward with stories like this, what do you think people would believe it if you went in, like say you did meet an alien? Now I've seen a saucer, but that was as much of the experience as I had. But if they would have landed and said, "Hey, Brent, hey, we're from wherever, and you want to go for a ride," I'd be like, "Yeah, okay." And then I'd go and we'd go on a ride. Now if I came back home and said, "Yeah, guys, not only did I see one, but then I went for a ride," how many people do you think would be grabbing their mouse quick and getting the hell out of there? Probably most, and it's the unfortunate factor of this, that if you bring up fantastic claims, you almost need to have fantastic evidence, because to expect people to take these things on face value or on faith it's pretty tough. And you may be being honest. I mean, any of these stories, they might be being absolutely honest, but the fact that they're making these huge claims with absolutely nothing to substantiate it, or very little, it's pretty tough, so it's human nature. I mean, nobody wants to be conned. Nobody wants to be lied to, and nobody wants to accept the lie and be the sucker. So, our initial reaction is always, well, wait a minute, I'm not going there. And, we back away from it. But, that's the truth of the matter. I think if I was given a ride, I would just keep that to myself because I wouldn't expect anybody to believe me unless I came back with a bunch of pictures and selfies. Here's me with Zatu, you know. Me and Zatu hanging out on Jupiter, you know. I mean, what do you do? I think you got to keep that stuff to yourself unless you can possibly validate it somehow. All right, so Walter Rizzi, let's get rid of my little message here. Walter Rizzi develops telepathic abilities after chance meeting with aliens. Outstanding. Although the details of the encounter are not particularly outlandish, there is still a persistent feeling among many in UFO circles that a pinch of salt should perhaps be at the ready when it comes to the claims of Walter Rizzi from Bolzano, Italy, in which he would make 10 years after a supposed incident in 1978. Bill says a lot of people probably go for the ride and never seen again. Well, there's that. That Twilight Zone episode. I've deciphered the last part of the book. It's a cookbook. The guy tries to get off and they push him back in. That was horrible. That was a horrible episode. But yeah. Bill says the second UFO I saw buzzed me as I pulled off a highway. I didn't want to think about it for 3 weeks. Yeah, that's amazing, Bill. You and I got to talk, brother. You and I got to talk. Kind of made this. Okay. All right. So after pulling, he said, supposed incident in 1978, sorry. After pulling his car to the side of the road near an underpass to get some sleep, Rizzi would awaken to see a disc-shaped craft hovering near his vehicle. And even more concerning was the humanoid entity making his way towards him. The being would communicate with Rizzi using telepathy. It's perhaps interesting to note that similar to Palman's story, the alien Rizzi met described how they were looking for vegetation, fruit, and minerals that are rich on planet Earth, and of great value to them. In a similar manner to many sightings of the time, although we should remember that Rizzi waited a decade before speaking of the encounter, the witness would state that he was warned of an impending disaster that would affect around 80% of the planet. Yeah, that's not good. The next is number 6. Carol Watts learns that aliens are watching humans as they near the cosmos. Perhaps by comparison to many others on this list is the claims of Carol Watts, relatively pedestrian. However, there are many who remain suspicious, with some noting Watts' desire for financial return regarding the sightings, all of which took place over a period of 6 months during 1967 in Wellington, Texas. He would claim to first witness a cigar-shaped craft while driving between fields and buildings on the family farm. He approached the object, which hovered low to the ground, and was asked by a voice that was neither masculine nor feminine if he was willing to submit to a rigorous physical examination. I think that's the part you say no. If he passed, he would be allowed to travel with the occupants into space. Although he would initially decline this invitation in subsequent meetings, he agreed and ultimately went up into space with the aliens. And according to the conversation that took place during this cosmic journey, he was informed that these alien visitors would regularly come and go as they pleased from Earth. Perhaps more worryingly, he was informed that many alien races in space were concerned with humanity's impending arrival in the cosmos, and of humans becoming a spacefaring race. Yeah, I kind of share their concern. I mean, there's a lot of amazing people, but there's also a lot of really questionable people out there that, give them a little bit of power and it just gets ugly. So I hope somehow we grow before we end up hip the hopscotch in the cosmos. We're down to 6 minutes. I may not make it all the way through this, but if we don't make it all the way through, I'll be sure to finish it up tomorrow on tomorrow's show when Don is here. But Howard Menger meets his former lover from a past life on Venus. Yeah, this one's a little bit out there. According to alleged contactee Howard Menger, he was invited aboard a UFO in the summer of 1956. He not only was taken into outer space and to the moon, but he claimed to have witnessed alien civilization and huge structures on its surface. An already bizarre set of encounters would turn even weirder, though, when a strange woman would attend a lecture Menger was giving on the subject of contact with space brothers and sisters. The woman's name was Connie Weber. It was Menger's belief that he and Weber had once been a couple during a past life they shared on Venus. Rather than leaving such a notion at that, Menger promptly divorced his wife and began a relationship with Weber. Perhaps even stranger was a television interview he would give in 1960, in which he stated that the entire story was false. That was not well written. But however, rather than admit that he had simply made the account up for notoriety and even money, he stated that he was part of a top-secret military experiment to test public reaction to alien contact, a claim which, like his original one, would divide opinion. Rightfully so. This one's Luciano Galli takes a trip into space during his lunch hour. What are you doing for lunch? Going to Venus. In July 1957, Italian businessman Luciano Galli was returning back to work in Rome following his lunch break when a black car, suddenly pulled up alongside of him. The window wound down and a gentleman with piercing black eyes leaned out. He asked Gill if he remembered him. Galli was about to respond that he didn't when all of a sudden a wave of memories washed through his mind, making him realize that he did indeed remember the strange man. He had seen him previously on the streets of Rome. The man asked Galli if he would like to go with them, and he ultimately got into the back of the vehicle. They would drive to the outskirts of the city where a saucer-shaped UFO was waiting for them. After they boarded the craft, shot off into the sky. The spaceship would take them to a huge mothership, which Galli was then given a tour of. He was ultimately returned to the spot from where he was taken. While many would struggle to believe this account, he would claim that he didn't care what people thought. There were several similar reports around the world in 1957 that perhaps lend a bit of credibility. I don't know. I suppose that's possible. I don't see why not. Hubert Lewis meets aliens from Venus living among us. According to news agent Hubert Lewis in 1957, he witnessed a disc-shaped object and its occupants while cycling through the town of Church Stretton in Shropshire in order to pick up newspapers. When a tall figure appeared in the road in front of him, Lewis demanded to know who the stranger was. Almost without thinking, the occupant replied that the news agent need not fear him. The two would speak for around half an hour, the metallic disc hovering in the background all the while. As their conversation progressed, the wind, which had previously been relatively brisk, seemed to drop, although, strangely, Lewis could still hear it. Following the meeting, Lewis claimed to have developed certain psychic abilities. Furthermore, he claimed to receive visits from high-ranking police officers who would advise him to forget certain matters. Advice to which he initially agreed, however, several months later, he would encounter the alien beings in their craft again, this time in a field. He was informed. He would claim that the aliens were from the planet Venus and were living in disguise among the population on Earth. Wow. There's only a couple more, but I'll save these for tomorrow. We'll get these other two tomorrow because, folks, we're about out of time. How'd that happen? How did it go so fast? You may ask, and I would have to say, well, this is the portal. Everything's possible here. Just saying. It could be. Could be that we always encounter time anomalies here on the portal. Maybe the portal is a time anomaly. Just saying. Hello, anybody? Hello? No. I'm just kidding, folks, but it's been an absolute epic journey here with you guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with me. I appreciate your participation and your patronage. If you think DARPA closing lifelog and Facebook started on the same day after all these years is a coincidence, that would make you a C. I don't know what a C is. Okay. That's true. Call coincidence theorist. I got you, Bam. Well, that's a whole nother dozen of eggs to crack open. But, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You have a fantastic channel. All the good chatters and great paranormal. Well, thank you, Algo. I'm really thrilled that you found us finally. It's over. You're right, Ruthie. I don't know how it happened so quick, but that's just how it goes. Jennifer Flores, how you doing? Good to see you. Kyle, how you doing? DJ Big Red, good to see all of you guys. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. Great show, even greater people. Yeah, I mean, this is the cool part about the portal is it's all about these amazing people. You guys are all the amazing people. I just turn the lights on and talk about stuff. I'm just thrilled that you guys want to be a part of it. So thank you so much. Please spread the word about the portal. Let people know. Share these videos on your social media. If you're on YouTube, just share it. It'd mean the world to me. But that's all I got for you guys. Stick around for Paisley Wild coming up next. All I can say is I love you all. I sincerely do. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow night when Don's here.